I'll just call our workshop and briefing session back to order. It's a very strange word, but look, it's my great pleasure. This is one of my favourite sessions of our whole annual calendar, hearing from some of our rangatahi and young people who have their environmental switches going on in their brains and actually doing stuff on the ground, which we're all about doing. Around this table, unfortunately, we do a lot of talking and we could probably do a lot more doing, so we've probably a lot to learn from you. So look, I'll throw over the speaking paddle to Sally Sheedy, who you would have met out in the foyer, and my apologies for being slightly late. But yeah, looking forward to hearing from you all today, and as I say, we're all ears and we're really honoured to have you with us.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm actually going to have a very small role this morning because I'm simply going to hand over to Michelle, who's the Senior Education Advisor with Waikato Regional Council, who is here to lead your annual update on the EnviroSchools program. As you would have seen in your agenda, we have two schools who are presenting today from Patarangi and also Parongia, but I'm going to leave it to them to give you the update. So hand over to you, Michelle, and thank you for coming in today.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Mayor Susan and councillors. It's lovely to be here. We really appreciate this opportunity, and I think you'll really enjoy hearing from our young people. It always gives me lots of hope for the future when I hear the student voice, and I'm really delighted to have this opportunity to share that with you. We really appreciate the long-standing and ongoing partnership with Waipa District Council. There's a deep history here, and we really acknowledge that. And without your support, we couldn't do what we're doing. So thank you for that ongoing support. I work in the education team at the Regional Council, and I have the privilege to support the amazing team and the amazing mahi of the EnviroSchools kaupapa. On the slides there, you can see a little bit, I guess, of the framework of EnviroSchools. EnviroSchools has deep roots in the Waikato. It was actually piloted in Waikato over 20 years ago, and the pilot schools in Hamilton are still going strong. Hamilton East School, we've got some nods around the table, so we're very lucky to have this kaupapa so deeply rooted in the Waikato. EnviroSchools is all about creating a healthy, peaceful, sustainable world through learning and taking action together, and our role is really to support the schools on their own journey. So you'll hear two different journeys today, which are unique to each school, and the school really owns that journey, and our role is to support them through providing resources that are engaging, facilitators that are fun and inspiring. We have one here today, Sarah, over to the side there, and we also run events and things like that to join schools up. So we're all about empowering learners. So you can see that as one of our key guiding principles. And today's a great example of hearing from our young people who have the opportunity to determine the vision for their school in terms of their sustainability journey, and work with the facilitator, the support of the facilitator and their teachers as an Enviro group to take action for their school environment and also their local environment. We have the set of guiding principles at the bottom which hold our kaupapa and keep us true to our purpose, but it's not a set journey, it's a journey that is driven by each school. So we connect in with learning for sustainability through the curriculum and the resources. We support respect for diversity through engaging through different viewpoints. We embrace te ao Māori in our kaupapa and making it very specifically unique to New Zealand. And we're all about creating a sustainable community. Got our next slide will just show you a little snapshot of what it looks like in Waipa. So we have two facilitators that work in your district, Alex and Sarah, 25 schools currently. We have extended our model now to allow, opportunity for all schools to engage in events and things like that to provide an opportunity to experience what EnviroSchools could look like for their school. And that's where we have the Friends of EnviroSchools approach. So we have the 25 schools that have agreed to take on a long-term sustainability journey, but we have the kaupapa available and open to any school to participate if they want to taste what it looks like. On the right-hand side, you can see the model of collaboration. So we have the kaupapa, which is founded by Toimata Foundation, which is a national organisation. There's over 1,000 schools in the country involved in the Enviro Schools movement. And they hold Enviro Schools with our founding partner, Te Mauri Tau, in Whaingaroa. All those different blobs just really show the collaboration. So you might be one of the green blobs, the regional council might be another one, and the schools then, because of the co-funding relationship, we can reach more schools together. So that's really what that model shows. This is a little snapshot of the types of activities that the students might experience through Enviro Schools. These are our resources, our key concepts and our theme areas. They link to curriculum. They are locally specific. So there are opportunities for schools to personalise these and contextualise them to their local environment, which is really important in the current, with the current local curriculum focus and Aotearoa New Zealand curriculum Aotearoa New Zealand histories focus. We've found that the resources have been really useful in those contexts. So depending on where the school is based, they may be interested in exploring a particular area, one of these theme areas. If they're near an awa, they might do some water quality testing. Patarangi did that on their school camp last year on a farm. They might be doing some replanting and reforestation with the living landscapes. They might be on a zero waste journey. They might be looking at energy. Depending on what they're interested in, we can support them in that. People often ask me, how do you know it's successful? How do you know you're doing a good job? And I think the best way is to hear from our young people, because you can really feel it in how they are articulate and passionate and connected to their environment. But we also capture stories and we capture metrics. So part of our evaluation process is to have a external evaluation every 3 years through the Regional Council work program, and that's part of the annual plan. It's a KPI for me. So we were evaluated in 2023, and so it'll be next year will be the next one for us. And that's a really good chance for us to tune up and get some perspective. We interview students and staff and look at feedback from the facilitators. At the top there, you can see some metrics. Those are national data points which show some of the outcomes from being involved in Enviro Schools. So those are mapped to the Local Government Act, the 4 wellbeings. You can see a lot of high numbers there in the environmental sustainability actions, all schools having some zero waste action as a result of being involved, and some really high numbers there for kai production through composting and food growing in schools, but also really awesome engagement in the cultural sustainability, social and economic sustainability space as well. So it's a holistic sustainability kaupapa. Next slide. I thought I'd just draw your attention to something that's coming up locally next term. We're having our annual Waikato Secondary School Student Climate Summit, and that will be at Te Awamutu College, just down the road. So I think we've got nine schools coming to that. So I just wanted to let you know that it was happening on your doorstep. Part of that summit is to engage young people in leadership conversations, build their communication skills so that they can talk to their peers about climate change, they can talk to their teachers, and they can have conversations. We also engage nature connection, so they go out and experience a community project. And the best thing about this is for them to connect with others across the region. So I just wanted to let you know that that's happening in your space. That's all from me, because I think the best bit is to hear from our students. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of an overview of Enviro Schools. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity today and for your ongoing support. And I'm now going to introduce you to our amazing Enviro leaders from Patarangi School.
And if we can just ask for questions at the end, so if we can hold off until the end of their discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. That was awesome. Really good snapshot of the great work that you guys do. Right, there you go. Yeah.
There are 2 chickens. They provide aid for making food, but they also help us with our compost because we can give them our food scraps. Food to cow class, do you choose and feed the chickens each morning and they collect the eggs. So these sometimes get used in class cooking. If we have too many, we sell them to the community. In the holidays, the chickens go home to Mrs. Hull's house. We also have fruit trees at school. In our orchard, we have 3 different types of plum trees. We have 3 jowers and lemon trees. We are helping to keep planting more fruit trees around our school so that we have fresh in-season fruit to eat.
Kia ora, my name is Jackson, and a couple of years ago we had an idea to make a tree house, but because of safety regulations we couldn't build up, so we decided that we would surround the existing outdoor classroom with native trees. Part of our plan was also to install outdoor blinds so that we can use the space in all weather conditions. We are still working on raising some money for this part and also buying some beanbags so we can sit on there. We installed a rain tank to collect rainwater off the roof of the outdoor classroom so that we can water our natives. But unfortunately, there has been very little rain this summer, so our poor wee natives are struggling. We also planted out the front verge of the school with mountain flax donated by a local nursery. These will help stabilise the bank.
Morena, my name is Jack. Throughout this year, we all get a chance to go over the road to Bush School. This is a real highlight for lots of students. At Bush School, we like to climb trees, light the fire and cook something on it, make spears and go fishing in the pond. There are tadpoles, eels and frogs in the pond. And there are lots of insects like wolf spiders, and we have seen lots of birds like tuis and pukekos. There are pests down there like rabbits, ferrets and possums, but we have traps set for these. There is also some wild food like wild onions and blackberries, but we take our lunch down with us and eat it before we go off to explore. There are swings, slack lines, as well as fishing lines and nets. Some children like to whittle sticks and others like to build huts and play games in the bush.
We also are growing trees for Trees of Survival program. Sometimes next term we'll go out to a farm close to our school and plant these trees. We have already done some planting on a farm that our bush school is on. This is a good place to plant as our school is in the middle of the ecological corridor going from Parongia to Mangatauteri.
Kia ora. I am Torianne. For the last 3 to 4 years, we have been part of the Garden to Table group. We have improved our marakai by replacing the old garden beds and moving the location of our gardens. This was a big job and we were able to do it with the help of some funding from Waikato Regional Council's Enviro Schools Fund. When we made our new gardens, we created seating around the garden beds, so at lunchtime we can sit and look at the garden. Each term, a class gets to participate in a weekly garden to table session run by a parent volunteer, my mum, and our teacher aide, Mrs. Cambridge. Half of the class go to marakai to weed, plant, water, harvest the food we are growing, and the other half go to the kitchen and prepare a meal to sit down and share together with the gardening team. This program means that we get to learn how to grow and cook food, including the learning to shop with to chop with knives and use all the kitchen tools. This year, we have started a dedicated garden crew. Their job from Monday to Thursday is to water the gardens, feed the worms, collect the compost, and check our pest traps. On Friday, they work with our compost manager to process the compost collected over the week. This will hopefully be used in our garden when we have made enough compost. We have had pest traps at school for a couple of years now, and we have also made some to sell. We have put our traps out around the school because we want to be a safe space for birds and bats to stop. Our school bird is the kōkako, and it would be cool to see that bird at our school one day. We like doing this mahi because it saves us money and we are taking care of the environment by trapping pests.
You want to stand together and take, we'll come to the end. Okay, thank you.
That was fantastic.
Pirongia School.
Michelle, can we get a photo? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you want to sit in the fancy chairs? Cool. Yeah. Do you want to sit down? Want to sit in the fancy chair?
Hold on, that's a chair.
Oh, you need to look at the screen up here as well.
It's up there too. Hello, we're Pongia School Enviro Leaders. I'm Toby.
And I'm Holly.
Last year we had our Green Gold Reflection Day. On our Reflection Day, we had many guests join us, including representatives from Enviro Schools, Waipa District Council, and the Pongia Te Aroa Ōkahu Restoration Society. Trees for Survival, active supporters, and parents in our community, Purirewhi Pongia School Board of Trustees, and our previous principal, Jan Cullen, and teacher, Sandra Lee. Tawa students shared their presentation in the Trees for Survival program, potting up over 800 native seedlings for the 2025 growing season. Kawaka students shared their recently developed rongo garden, which is a traditional Māori herb healing garden. Karakatea students led our guests through a hidden treasures tour, explaining each monumental part of our school. They also shared their inquiry projects, which varied from the climate control to the ecological corridor and pest control on Matakitaki Pa. It was fabulous watching the different ways they presented their learning through dance, drama, poster boards, and writing. Rata students shared their learning around tiger worms and how to keep their habitats at school healthy, as well as the facts that our native house birds, tui, kea, and kakapo. They also introduced a new soft plastic recycling system that was implemented the very next day. At the end of day assembly, the senior kapahaka group performed, and Room 5 very creatively shared the results of their recent waste audit to the school through music. Rata learners shared their learning about insects, birds, and what we see around our school today and how they help our environment to thrive. And that's some word art with keywords from our Reflection Day, with words such as initiatives, connections, journey, projects.
In our writer and talent, which year 0 to 4, they each are responsible for a place in the school. For instance, Room 10 is responsible for the soft plastic recycling. Room 7 and 8 are responsible for the worm farm. Room 8 and 9 are responsible for the herb boxes, butterfly gardens, and pest tracking. All Writers team students can take part in the Gardenators Club, which operates every Tuesday lunchtime. And they do stuff like replace soil and plants. Also, all Writer team students at the start of the year go on a maunga kara nature walk to connect with our mountain and the environment. In our tower teams, which are year 3 to 4, they are focusing on trees for survival and maintenance of our native bush. They also have full opportunity to participate in the Gardenators Club.
Katea team, year 5 and 6. The year 5 and 6s get the opportunity to do things like service and kaitiakitanga. Rubbish and recycling is part of service and keeps our school clean and healthy. Every year we do 2 whole school rubbish audits and then report the findings so we can improve. They also get the opportunity to work with the worm farm and chickens. Every year they go up to Mount Prongia for a lodge day. On the lodge day, they do a series of engaging activities to connect with the environment and to build for team building. They are also allowed to participate in the Gardenator Club. Kawaka team. The year 7 and 8s from Kawaka team do leadership every Friday. Mine, for example, ours is Enviro Leaders. We also have English herb gardens to attract bees, and if we wanted to, we can even make balms and ointments. We have a group of students from Garden to Table who every week take foods from our garden or foods that are in season and make delicious meals out of them. We also have a rongo garden, which is a traditional Māori healing garden. This one was implemented by the year 8s last year. So I came from Mount Prongia. At the start of the year, we have the privilege to go up to Mount Prongia and camp for a week. We can really engage with the environment. They are also allowed to participate in the Gardenators Club.
In Parongia School, we have exciting future enviro projects, such as the hot compost system, which will be a big bin that the community and our school can put food waste in, which will biodegrade into compost, which we can sprinkle on our gardens. We also have Potato Korero, carvings of historical significance with Matua Mitch. These 5 people are helping Matua Mitch, the carver, paint these 4 different po. Each po represents a different Maori myth or legend that happened in our area, such as the Patupaerehe and Kahu Peka, that herbal healer woman who explored around and named our mountain. We also aim for stronger connections with predator-free Parongia, which is why Kahikatea team has been going down to Mātakitaki Pa and help pest trapping with Faith and Lindy. We also aim to continue to strengthen our connections with the community, and this term, Enviro leaders from year 7 and 8 have been wanting to make an award that is given out to the class that has gone above and beyond in their usual Enviro expectations. We are hoping to give this award out on this Friday. This is just a glimpse of the environmental things that are going on in our school. Thank you for listening, and we have enjoyed sharing with you. I'm Heidi.
And I'm Toby. We're Prongia School Enviro Leaders.
Well done, Enviro Leaders. I think you'll agree they're amazing, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. We're now available to answer any questions you might have.
Oh, crikey, where to start? Jeepers, I feel somewhat threatened. We've got some really eloquent, intelligent, well-informed speakers in our midst. I'm really blown away quite significantly, to be fair. Look, I'll open the floor for questions, but I saw a lot of beaming smiles, particularly from Councillor Claire and Councillor Dale Marie. It certainly played right into large parts of who they are as people. So look, I shall open the floor and invite you, Claire, to open us.
Thank you, Mayor Susan. Look, I was just absolutely delighted with the presentations that you've made this morning. I'm really thrilled that you're doing such amazing work and across so many different areas. So really huge congratulations to you. I was privileged to be able to come to the Pirongia Reflection Day, and wow, it just blew me away. Yeah, so impressed. I still am. I just love that idea of feeding back your waste audit to music. And I'm sure we could do that at council. Yeah, for all our, statistical, reporting. So just a huge encouragement to you to carry on the great work and, kia kaha. And wouldn't mind going to that climate summit too, actually, just having a look at that too.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Claire. Del Marie, I know you can't wipe that smile off your face, yeah?
E rau rangatira mā, nā rangatira mua popo, tēnā koutou. You are the leaders of tomorrow. And I can't wait for you guys to be sitting around this table because it's you people that are really making change. So I'm really honoured because it was only because Councillor St Pierre invited me to she kind of told me about your reflection day and I invited myself. And I saw myself in one of your pictures and it was a fantastic day. In Patarangi School, I can't wait to maybe coattail with Councillor St Pierre out at your kura as well, because listening to your trapping that you guys are doing out there is just marvellous. And I know Papatūānuku will be be so grateful every time one of those traps. And I've also noted that you sell traps. So is that on your website at your school that you sell those traps?
Yeah, I think so.
It is awesome. I'll have a talk to some of these people at the Manga Ohoi stream where we do some stuff because I know we had a trap broken the other day. Yeah. So tēnā koutou, thank you very much for today.
Thank you. Steph.
Oh, kia ora koutou. That was just inspiring. And to all of the principals, teachers, parents, and the Enviro Schools program leaders, fantastic work you're doing. But yeah, it's our kids, right? It's the tamariki at the end of the day that pick it up and run with it. And that was just inspiring. I've learned about what you've done. I can see the passion that you all hold and what incredible speaking that you have, public speaking that you have carried out today, which is not easy. It's not easy to come into this room and speak. So well done. My question for you is, what's one thing that you'd like to see us as adults do better or do more of to help the environment?
Good question.
Less packaging.
Less packaging. Nice.
More trees.
More trees.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Less waste.
Less waste. Yeah. Thank you. Those are great answers, and we'll take those on board and think about those things. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Any other questions from the floor for our wise people, young people? Bruce.
Just a simple one. I see my grandchildren taking such nice food to school. Now, your food scrap waste, you wouldn't have much, would you? You'd eat it, most of it, wouldn't you?
We have a trash-free Tuesday. So on Tuesday, if your lunchbox doesn't have any packaging, then you get a point for your house.
At lunchtime, we have these buckets and we go around asking people for their food scraps, and then we go over and give them to the worms.
Lots of hard work outside of class time. Hey, lunch times, after school, weekends as well, eh?
I have a quick question. Do you do nude food? That's the thing at one of my children's school, and it's always a challenge as a parent to adhere to the nude food philosophy. So, in keeping with your less waste, do you do nude food?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
What? Nude food? No packaging? Yeah. That's
Yep.
what we're encouraging.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So for those who are non-nude food literate, that means no packaging, minimizing the wrapping. So instead of using Glad wrap, use honey wraps and yeah, So yeah, it becomes quite a challenge for a parent, I've got to say, especially, our lives are all pretty busy. But look, I think that the key to this is that it's driven by children who will inherit the decisions of our, that we make here. So look, a little bit like Steph, I want to acknowledge not only Enviro Schools for your ongoing commitment and hard work in this space. As I mentioned before, I had my own personal connection some 12 years ago when my own son was I think they were green gold at the time at Puhui, and I had the great pleasure of accompanying a school group to a conference in Adelaide. It was a Waters conference. It was a kids teaching kids conference, which in essence became a kids teaching adults conference, really significantly shaped the thinking that I have now and my husband and I have in terms of the way we run our farm and our commitment to minimising our footprint there. So just acknowledge Enviro Schools and your fabulous committed educators. Really thank you, Sarah and Alex, often unsung heroes probably. And teachers who support. Now, something I've noticed over time, success of these programs really hinge around a champion and within that school group. And if you lose that champion, they move on. Unfortunately, it dwindles and it ebbs and flows a little bit in terms of the passion within the kura to actually pick up that kaupapa. So acknowledge the teachers who've picked up and running with us. And of course, you can never talk about these things without discussion about your parents, right? I mean, you mentioned, I think, Tony Ann, about you have parent help. Your mum comes in and helps you. So yeah, there's a lot of parent commitment here too. So it goes to the whole intergenerational thinking and it being a team effort. So you can't forget thanking mum and dad and your caregivers. But I guess most importantly, we've got to look to you. The young people who are brave, who are putting your hand up and saying, "No, we don't want to inherit perhaps a situation that we would be inheriting if you guys don't take some action." So look, thank you for being brave. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and some of your really cool thinking. We can all learn from a lot from you. And certainly it'd be really neat to see a lot more schools, even picking up bits and pieces. You don't have to dive into the whole thing and immerse yourself in it fully, because sometimes that takes quite a lot of change. But if you can cherry pick bits and make improvements in small steps, I think that's a positive thing too. So thank you for your passion and for coming to see us today. Any other questions for these wonderful people? Love your work. Sally.
Just in terms of the wrap up before we show our appreciation to the amazing mahi that's been done, just really want to support the strong relationship that we have with the Regional Council to provide Enviro Schools in the Waipa, but also Olivia, who I forgot to mention at the start, is our biodiversity planner and holds this relationship and obviously has that real connection with our natural environment that we have in Waipa, which is so important to us as well. So I think we can show our appreciation. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll break now and return.
Would you like a photo?
If we can return at 11. Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm puffing because I've been playing left-handed virtual reality tennis very badly. Do not recommend doing it in a small room because I think that the tables were pretty close to being knocked over. So anyway, look, it's wonderful to see our friends from Sport Waikato back in the room. Nice to see you all. But listen, I will pass over to Sally to undertake the introduction. Nice to see you, gentlemen.
Kia ora, and thank you for this time for us to work through the draft play active recreation and sports plan that we're working with Sport Waikato to develop or update for Waipa. Just do some base introductions before I hand over to the team, but you will note that this is an interactive workshop session with you. The team will explain what that is soon, but Liz, noting that you are online and that we will give you some directions as well for you to have interactive time as well. So I'd like to welcome Steve, who's the General Manager, Regional Leadership, and Hayden, who you know quite well as our Regional Connectivity Coordinator with Sport Waikato. They are going to take you through this workshop session and really appreciate your time and your thoughts to help us develop what is referred to as the PARS plan. So hand over to you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Sally, and kia ora, everyone. Thanks for having us today. As Sally said, we'll just be going through a few slides, hopefully not too tedious. We'll encourage some interaction as we go through. But just to start you off, as Sally alluded to, a little bit of interaction to start off rather than just talking to you the whole time. So you'll see you've got some bags in front of you with some Lego. I'm going to give you 3 minutes inside your bag. You've got some instructions and a scenario that we want you to do. So you're going to have 3 minutes to build. Liz, I appreciate you're online. So maybe you can get a pen and paper and just draw for us your favourite childhood playtime memory. If you can do that for us, Liz, that's Liz online. Everyone else can build their masterpiece from the Lego pieces in front of you. Once you've finished, we'll come back to it later on in our time with you. So 3 minutes, off you go.
Can I, in the interest of interactivity, just warn you that the fire alarm will be tested at some point. It'll only be a test. It's not an actual alarm or a drill.
Also to note with this Lego, it's not a competition. Okay, so you don't have to be the best.
Steve, you know that the best competitions to win are the ones when people don't know it's a competition. A gold-winning Olympic athlete told me that.
So you can be quite abstract in what your thoughts are, and
Yeah, time goes fast. You've got 2 minutes remaining. No pressure. Okay, we're halfway. minute to go. We've got 30 seconds to go. Final stages to wrap up. Some elaborate designs I can see. Okay, last couple of seconds, finishing touches. Doesn't matter if you haven't finished. That's okay. As long as you've got a base. Done? Everyone done? Cool. Okay, if you just put it to the side, we'll revisit these legacy structures later on. Okay. So you'll see I've got the slides up on the screen, but I'll just try and talk to this rather than having to worry about too much about what's on the screen. So just a bit of purpose, I guess, and background to this plan. The purpose of this workshop today is to gain feedback from you all on the draft Waipa District Council Play Active Recreation and Sport Plan. It's quite a mouthful, so we tend to call it PARS Plan, which is much easier to say. And overall purpose is to gain adoption for this plan in partnership with Council. A little bit about the plan. This has been a partner document between Waipa District Council and Sport Waikato. This is evidence-based. We've used a number of different data and insights to inform this plan. You can see a list of them all there. You'll just note that some of these surveys and those types of things are getting a little bit older, but that's because we've used the latest data. You'll know Census 2018 is the latest census, and we're still patiently waiting for when we can use the next version of the census. Community survey, we're doing a new community survey this year, which we'll partner with Council to get that out to our communities. But essentially the plan for this document is that it will be live and we'll update it over time when we have new information that comes to light. Probably the key thing to note with this is we know that over time things change, trends change, data changes, different landscapes change, financial and economic landscapes also change. So the purpose of this is we want to have a 10-year lens where we formally update it every 3 years, but annually we're updating it with new data and insights as they become available. The purpose is to bring together Council and Sport Waikato work streams across play, active recreation and sport. It's to influence activity levels and overall well-being of the Waipa district, to provide guidance for strategic investment, and to help inform decision-making processes for now and into the future. This current PARS plan is to replace the existing Waipa Play Active Recreation and Sport Plan which was 2017. And obviously in 8 years, things have significantly changed, and we want to ensure that this is aligned and updated with current trends and data. Probably the main difference between the previous plan and the new plan is rather than drilling down into specifics, i.e. new ablution blocks in a specific location, we're looking at things from a wider, more strategic lens. For example, we're looking at playground renewals, what the research and what community surveys talk about to ensure we've got key considerations to move forward with those types of things. Probably just an understanding of the journey so far, how we've got to today. We've had a project team which has included Sport Waikato staff, mainly myself and Hayden, alongside Waipa District Council staff. And we've obviously talked about the key insights that we've had in our data that we've collected to date. Essentially gathering 3 main surveys, the Regional Sports Organisation survey, our local club survey, along with the community survey. Obviously, as I said earlier, we've used other things, i.e. the Sport New Zealand survey and the 2018 census. The project team has then developed the working draft PARS plan, which I believe you've all had circulated to you prior to today. Some of the key themes that have come out of the data and insights that we've had, reducing barriers to participation, we know is key. Time, cost, quality opportunities, accessibility, inclusion, and connectivity have been the key things that have come out through our data and insights. Probably another thing to highlight is in the past, we've thought about things like play, active recreation, and sport as being separate entities. But over time, we realise that these lines are becoming more and more blurred. What we believe sport has been in the past is evolving over time. And what we believe active recreation and play has been in the past is evolving over time, i.e. the VR headsets that we bought today. We want to continue to think, how do we engage with the youth of today and ensure that we have a lens on engaging with those youth to understand what they need now and what they want into the future as well. Clearly, we need to work in partnership. Some key partnerships that we've highlighted, obviously between ourselves, Sport Waikato and Council, sports clubs, community groups, iwi schools, and looking at co-funding investment opportunities as well. Another key point to highlight with this plan is we're not coming here with this plan to say we need investment from Council to do this. You already invest into Sport Waikato in our partnership contract. We're not asking for any further investment to activate any of these actions. Through partnerships, and through other funding and investment opportunities, i.e. activation opportunities through things like Te Manawa funding, which Sport Waikato administer on behalf of Sport New Zealand. These are things that we're talking about to help activate these things that are in the action plan. Over to Hayden.
Kia ora koutou. Thanks, Steve. I think it's important as we work through this plan just to take a moment and a pause to understand what the differences might be between play, active recreation and sport, just so we've got those in mind as we go forward. So people engage in physical activity in 4 broad categories. So there is play, active recreation, sport, and there's also PE in a school setting. They're the 4 broad categories that people will get physically active within. This plan obviously doesn't touch on PE. We do have other staff members that work into those school primary, intermediate and secondary school spaces. There's often overlap, and from a distance, all these activities can actually look the same. So example like swimming, for example, someone who's swimming for sport in a lane, moving up and down, looks exactly the same who's swimming laps for fitness. So it can be an example where things look very similar. So in terms of play, imagine you and your friends are at a park and you start running around, you're making up a game, the grass is lava, you have to jump from rock to rock, no one's keeping score, there's no rules, you can stop or change the game whenever you want. That would be an example of play. So hands up if you had your little slip of paper talked around play, because people work on different things, and I'd like to invite somebody to share what their creation was and what it might have meant to them, what their favourite childhood memory was. So who would like to do that? Thanks, Susan. So if you could read the question out, because not everyone would know what the question is.
I didn't read the question. I just created
Fine.
I make the rules here. No.
So you might not have had play.
It's very non-lawyerish.
I'm sorry. I know. Well, I was trying to multitask. The woman in me. So the spiel here said the Waipa wards are facing off in a fierce sporting rivalry. Is that the one?
That's not the one.
Oh, well, I didn't have
That's
it on
okay.
the paper. But my favourite
That's
childhood
okay.
memory.
Okay.
Skiing with my dad. So the white bit is the mountain, the maunga at Aotearoa. It's dad at the back with some black skis because we have to, and I've got white skis, which are very fat. But that is me with my dad. And actually the most poignant memory, other than obviously all the falls, was going up on a rope tow with my dad as a little tacker, smell of wet wool, being stuck between his skis. He'd put me in the centre and he'd hold on to the rope tow and we'd be pulled up. He'd actually pull me up. I'd just stand there like that. But that got way too hard to try and do because little Lego people don't let you do that. But so this is me skiing with my dad. My dad is at the back making sure that if I fall over, he'll pick me up. So that's it. It's my favourite childhood memory.
We just have a, yep.
You're pointing me? Oh, I've done this, but that's not my favourite memory, unfortunately, because my favourite memory was, and remembering, I'm going back to the UK, where all of our streets were Coronation Street type houses. And the best time we ever had was in the back alley, playing whatever. And with the washing that was strung between the houses in the back alley, and we used those back alleys for everything, for soccer, for cricket, and when it got dark, for courting. And so I'm not going to go any further into that remark, but it really was. And then we had, because we didn't have any gardens, there was what we used to call the local rec, which was the local recreation ground, which was just a large expanse of grassed area. It was actually in 3 tiers. And you just went there, not with parents, you just, parents would say, go and get yourself the rec. And so you just got the rec and everybody else would be there. And whatever you did was totally unorganized. You might decide to have a game of footy or whatever, or just run around. And it was fabulous because it was fresh air and you weren't stuck inside on a screen, which, of course, in my youth, we didn't have screens.
Thank you both for sharing those. I think what's often really interesting is when Steve and I have done this a few times, and when we talk around play, if we come to a setting like this and we talk around play, people very often will think that we're going to talk about playgrounds. But actually, when we ask people what their memories are, most people don't build playgrounds. And I think there are some learnings in that. We're not saying playgrounds are not a good thing. The question comes to how do we supplement and how could we augment what's there. So to pick up on a couple of things that came up there in terms of Susan's story around skiing, I wonder what the ability in today's world with a VR type opportunity, how does somebody have a go at skiing VR without having to get all the way down to Cardrona, buy all the gear and so on? How could somebody have a go opportunity, local, safe, and then use that as a stepping stone to pick up on a point that was made at a previous hui? It's not VR for VR's sake and staying there. but how could that be used as a stepping stone for other things? And so that could be an example there. And to pick up on the Coronation Street back alleys, conversations that we've had with Sally and Brad and Angela and Aidan and the Open Spaces teams there around play streets. How can we potentially temporarily close streets that we can start to connect neighbourhoods together through play and sport and active recreation opportunities, whānau coming together, and then also play on the way opportunities. So at the moment we have a system where people leave home and they travel to a playground, possibly by car. But if they're walking, then how can we have little opportunities, little micro opportunities, spontaneous opportunities that they can engage on balance beams or painted stencils on footpaths that could be used to fill in some gaps where it's not possible to put playgrounds and those sorts of things. But again, people could where the location is right and where there is a gap, then there are opportunities to fill those with both semi-permanent but also pop-up opportunities as well.
Do we have a challenge that perhaps some of our youth today have lost the opportunity to actually participate themselves without parental instigation or parental supervision, that that kind of environment doesn't exist? I can see from my grandies, my grandies have got to have their parents there kind of getting them connected or playing with them. The kids have lost some of that ability to play by themselves.
Yeah, 100%. I think my background, I think we, as adults now, we often don't let children to become bored to the same level that we did before. And the other, I think we talked around this last time, what's the risk of not experiencing risk in your childhood? And it's interesting you say that. We have had conversations around how could we get back to a few tyre swings that are done, again, the right way in the right place and assessed. There are also risk benefit standards which are online now, which where these play opportunities don't happen inside a playground and then are constrained by playground standards, with all good meaning, there is still an option to apply a different standard to say, on balance, the risk outweighs, the benefit outweighs the risk.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aidan. Excellent. I just want to make one comment with play. I grew up in an environment that didn't have social media. Okay, so we didn't get bored. We went out and met with other people. The problem we've got now is that a lot of our younger people actually live in what I call a virtual community. They can actually play sport, or they can use their cell phone to do everything. And that is something that we are finding challenging. You get a lot of kids that come out of school or come up to a sports club, have very little knowledge of throwing a ball, actually physically doing, even running, turning and doing the basics that we think is just so normal. And I just wondered, this is something that we probably have to try and break that cycle somehow.
Yeah, I think if I could just say, part of this is understanding what our youth of today and into the future is, and if we think about Gen Alpha, which is the age group of 2010 to 2024, over 2 billion in this population, which is the largest population in our generation, and the only population ever to have never experienced a world without mobile phones, without the internet, and all of them will have an experience of AI into the future, right? So I get there's some challenges here, and I guess this is one thing that we're grappling with: is what do we do? How do we facilitate this? I think I guess part of our thinking is if you don't find a place for technology, then you're going to be fighting an uphill battle as well. So it's how do you link physical activity with digital and use it as a platform from here to get into that physical space. I know we've got the VR headsets here today, but our view isn't that that replaces that. Our view is that is a tool to help to get to that. And have we figured it out perfectly? No. We're all on a journey like everyone else is to understand what this could look like into the future. Probably the biggest thing with these headsets or digital, we've got our youth, a percentage of them that do play sport and they are physically active and they do all these things, but there's a big chunk that are not. And they are focused on the social media and the digital platforms and those types of things. If we could use that as a tool for them to have, like Hayden said, maybe skiing, they get an opportunity to experience, have a go, and then go, great, that'd be good to do that in the real world as well. Then that's something that we want to move to. And there is a bunch of research, and we actually, Hayden and I had a bit of a conversation about this morning. Some of the data is a bit misleading when it says, I think the research, what is it, 80% of youth that have an experience on digital, which is sporting, want to go and do something physical. Probably the challenge of they want to do it. What is the percentage that actually do that? And that's the area that we want to capture next. Is you may want to do something physical, but do you actually go in and do it? So that's the key step that we want to continue monitoring moving forward.
Thank you, Steve. That actually made a lot of sense. I just wanted to add in something here that my own personal thing that I did was jump off the Kopi Bridge in Raglan and from the top rail. That was my highlight of experience. But you see a TV ad and from ACC just saying a child looks at a pool, wants to climb up the top and jump off it. And, he has a uh-oh moment and doesn't. Now, that, as I say, is something that we possibly are getting the wrong message, mixed messaging are coming across on that.
Yeah, and Hayden's got hopefully you'll share this now, Hayden's got a good quote around risk and benefits and the views from Damien.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, I think that we try and make things as safe as necessary, not as safe as possible. Just to strike that balance. I mean, again, it's a broad statement, and I my background's school teaching and so on, so I know that it's nuanced, but I think we definitely are losing a lot of those opportunities. And it's a lot of the language we use. So when parents say, "Oh, be careful," it automatically signals the alarm bells to go off, as opposed to just have a think about what you're going to do, how you're going to get down from there. These are far more empowering phrases to use. So there's a lot of work to be done in a lot of areas.
And before we move on, Lou, was that your example in terms of what you built? Yep.
So the next part of the PARS plan is around active recreation. Did somebody we have 15 minutes, so maybe just one person who had an active recreation question in their bag? Have we had one? Oh, super. If you could.
Well, because my Fiako is experience. So when you talked about my play was rounding up sheep. And because we used to have competitions because the sheep were named as well. So if you couldn't get Popsy into the thing, you had to go and do some other shitty job. So it was a point of who could be the fastest to corral the sheep. So that was our playtime. Yeah, that was our playground.
Good tech.
Yeah. Oh, it was crap.
But in terms of active recreation, so active recreation might be you and your family going on a bike ride together, maybe hiking, swimming in the river, dancing just around your room. You're moving your body, but it's not a game with winners and losers. You're just doing it for fun, for health, and to feel good.
Everything. I got to be honest, everything is a game with Māori. And you were talking about devices in there, and I was having a giggle because the other day I couldn't get my nephews to listen, so I went outside and I just turned the power off. And everybody listened after that.
I think one of the questions, we've just got some sort of questions on the board to reflect on. I'll just draw you to the final, the last one there, question 3. This often comes up: what types of recreational activities and facilities would best support adults to stay active, socially connected, and engaged in the community? And we often, through surveys, start to see a thread of how can I do things alongside my children? How can my children see me role modelling good activities? And this comes down to the types of playground, if we were doing playgrounds or focus areas, how they are designed for those intergenerational opportunities where potentially whānau have caregiving responsibilities, etc., and 7-day work weeks to work through.
Interesting you should say that. Sorry, Damarie. I've had far too many children and have spent so many times standing on the side of courts or rugby grounds or upstairs in squash clubs or by the lake or whatever. And I reckon that's a missed opportunity for parents to actually be active. We sit there and crow about the wonders of our children being active, but we say that from the comfort of our sedentary position. And I often think that we should try and turn, as you say, become the display, be a role model, display, or perhaps mirror they're the role model and we're copying them. I kind of think that as an adult, we kind of feel like that's not part of our lives any longer. So perhaps that's a missed opportunity. And I don't know, it's just an observation I make. So many parents standing on the sideline, they'll become experts, right, and want to critique the coaches and then question the refs. So it could be a bit of a win-win situation, creating another sort of ecosystem for parent activity. I don't know, just sort of thinking. Damarie.
And I'm hoping that you guys are picking up on what's happening out at Kiki, because with the new cycleways, I know that there's a definite vortex of people who don't like them. But what we've picked up is the Kiki Primary School Kiki School have told us that they have just about triple the amount of children biking to school now that they've got the cycleway. They can't find racks to have the bikes in anymore because they don't know who made those in the 60s and 50s for schools. And secondary to that is all the parents are now biking to school with their children as well. And so the deputy principal is my cousin's husband, and he said the increase of physical activity he's seen, because they're on a program and he's lost 30 kilos or something, and he's doing a marvelous job. But I was just thinking about how you talked about active spaces, and Kiki's getting a hell of a bad run at the moment around our cycleways, but actually it's feeding right into what you guys are talking about. So I'm just trying to boost ourselves out here for Kiki. Yeah.
Can I just... And the cycleways are not just for cycling. Like, I don't cycle, but I walk along, and they're great places to get, active walking for a good number of kilometres. So,
Stephanie, Claire.
Yeah, I guess I'm interested because I'm still hearing the conversations, getting used, understanding the community and the way things are working. And Mike Pettit, who's also one of our councillors who's away today, he's the principal of Cambridge Primary School. And I'm interested in his reflections that because of the cycleways in Cambridge, the younger children can scooter to school. And so they're not just got the older kids cycling, it's the younger ones whose parents feel confident to let them scooter to school by themselves. But we get lots of complaints, dare I say it, from the other age group about the cycleways. Now, they're not only for kids, but when you think about that investment in those kids and not only what they're doing now, but their lives as a result of increased activity, risk-taking, all those good things we know, that's actually investment in intergenerational social well-being. And I think that being able to continue to promote and amplify and showcase why that's so important for all generations, that we've got to give to the next generations. We benefited from the previous generations. We need to, how do we be really keen to talk through how do we endorse what Dale said, promote that and understand why that's so important, not just from a today or it's taken my car trip, or takes my car trip so much longer because I've got to do this, but actually this is an investment in us as a community and in future generations as well as the current ones. So I'm interested to know, are you seeing that in other communities, and how do we
I'm totally in for this conversation and how we invest in it, but then how do we tell the story?
I think that's key, and I think, you know, if your cycleways are significantly more advanced than a number of others, you know, so I think you're on a really good track, excuse the pun, as far as that's concerned. And you're right. How do we acknowledge what's going on and capture what's happening, but also celebrate what that success is? And I think one of the challenges is, well, actually one of the successes is removing barriers for active recreation, which this is what this has done, right? And I mean, we would run out of time to talk about it now, but 100% something I think is really valuable to talk about offline, and what do we do about this into the future?
Yeah, thanks. So, it'd be a really worthwhile conversation. Thank you. Claire.
Could I just jump in about the other parts of active recreation? Because, you know, I'm involved in environmental work, and we know that people really enjoy being out on like Pirongia, walking a bait line, filling bait stations, they're being active as well, you know, keeping their fitness up, but they're doing it with a purpose. And we would really love to have more volunteers that would be willing like to check track lines or, trap lines and, other ways of controlling pests and things like that. And if there were partnerships available, through Sport Waikato to get people to have a go at it, to see what's involved, because I think people do have quite a mental barrier as, oh, I couldn't do it, or if I've got to kill an animal, I don't want to do it, or something, you know, like there's ways of managing that. But I think that's a huge opportunity, because with my involvement, both with Pirongia, but also the Ecological Corridor Project, Taia to Taia, there's a lot of opportunities there to do, you know, monitoring, pest control, which involves walking in that, and also just going out and I suppose planting and all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah, there's great opportunity. And just to get back on the cycleways, so one of our former councillors, Graham Webber, told me he has done 21,000 kilometres on cycleways in Cambridge.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just in terms of encouraging, I've always thought that there was an opportunity, perhaps for one of our social organisations like Lions or Rotary, to actually establish and run a bicycle library. Because, you know, kids ride a bike for maybe a year and then they grow out of it and they've got to buy another one. And to establish some kind of resource like that where bikes are dropped off and loaned out, you know, really is a good opportunity. So that would encourage quite a few people to get onto bikes.
So fantastic point there, Roger. And in terms of Claire's point around the environmental work, Michelle from our previous presentation on Enviro Skills have agreed to connect with Hayden and see the connection between schools and talking from that environmental side as well. So utilising these two partnerships to work together in that space. So we will do that obviously in that Enviro Skills space, but a great opportunity. And Roger, I think there has been some conversations within Kiki around a bike library or around support of how to fix bikes, those sort of things. So I know that those are conversations too. Just noting, I think we have about under 5 minutes to go. So I'll hand over to the team and we'll go try and get through the last couple.
Thank you. Yes, so just on Claire's point, there are a lot of initiatives called Good Gym initiatives. So people are doing picking up litter or trapping and those sort of things that can still absolutely count towards physical activity. Next definition is sport, which I think we're probably pretty familiar with, but it's games where people try their best to be fast, jump high, throw far, or score points within a set of rules that everyone plays fair. In terms of some of the questions just to reflect upon, and I think I'm really encouraged by the plan and what I'm hearing. You know, a lot of the ideas we have discussed. You know, we are aware of the solutions will obviously be quite bespoke for Waipa and different in different places, but I think we should all be quite heartened. Some of the questions that are relevant within the sports space, how are we supporting clubs, governing bodies, community groups to optimise their facilities? How are they starting to work together? From a hubbing perspective, co-investing, maybe merging and sharing resources. And then also changing participation trends. How are we balancing investment in traditional sports, but also making room for supporting emerging low-cost local opportunities as well. So there's a number of newer sports, seemingly newer sports that are coming in. Over time, it's probably going to rebalance a little bit. And just so making sure that we're making room within our sports network for those to take place and to fill in the gaps when other facilities aren't being used, maybe.
So was there anybody's favourite memory sporting based?
I've got one, but it's not going back. I'm going forward. Is that all? Can I do that? And so what it says here about sport, the Waipa Wards are facing off in a fierce sporting rivalry. Select a sport and build a dynamic league scene, which I don't know if it's dynamic, but will it be last minute victory, a hard fought battle, a moment of sportsmanship? So what I've designed is, and I've experienced it, which is pretty, that's a pickleball court. I've got a light there.
Yeah.
I've experienced it, not minimally. I think that this tournament started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I had put lights in there because it was going at 11 o'clock at night. And it's a smaller court. So I reckon between wards in the future, you could actually set this up and have a real good wing ding. And so just while I'm on it, Mayor Susan Scott Hayden was saying about skiing. She's got I haven't told her this yet, but she and her husband have got some nice downhill paddocks, grass skiing.
Yeah.
Yeah, short of things. I've just Googled it, so I think it's possible, Susan.
One of the things, if go back to my youth and participation, do you call darts sport? It is, actually, but that's a misspent youth. But what I do see in it, I think it's happening in some communities, and that is the utilisation of school facilities more than what we do now. And unfortunately, what we do see is a lot of schools are actually closed for the whole weekend. And there's nobody there. And yet there's a heck of a resource that is there that could be a strong community base to encourage participation. And I'm just wondering, why, seeing as we are a sporting nation, why have we not gone down that community school stronger relationship to encourage community use of that facility?
Yeah, if I may, and I know we're very short on time, so I'll just make this really quick. Great point about pickleball. Not really an emerging sport, but in New Zealand it's an emerging sport. It's quite big overseas. And interesting around something like pickleball is a utilisation of court space in a different way to what traditional sports, i.e. tennis and things, want to see themselves. What does the future look like for court space? And ensuring that we have different opportunities and we're multi-lined and multi-marked to be able to do different things. And great point around schools, 100%. It's definitely on our radar. How do we encourage, particularly when we've got challenges with space already, right? And we think about some of our open spaces, our indoor spaces alike, that there's challenges and overutilization in those things. And we've got these schools that are sitting there with these great facilities. How do we use those? And it's definitely something that's on our radar. How do we partner with MOU and school boards and ensure that we can actually optimise some of their spaces as well for our communities, because they shouldn't be sitting there unutilised over a whole weekend when there's options to actually utilise those things. So great points, thank you.
And sorry, Hanaranga, just before that, I think it's not without the want of trying, Roger, in terms of working with the MOE, but definitely is something that's always on our radar of how we can collaborate and work together on that.
Yeah. And can I say that we have been doing quite a lot of work with MOU at Sport Waikato, and we're we are getting some traction, you're pleased to know, Sally, and how do we have good working relationships to open these things up. And we're certainly with MOE trying to work towards that. In Hamilton, we've got some really good opportunities there, and the intention is to work on that broader sense, particularly through that Hamilton Waikato Waipa space.
Kia ora. Hinerangi.
Yeah, kia ora. I just wanted to pick back up on the grass skiing thing that Bruce brought up, because my thing here is my favourite childhood activity is being at our marae, and we had no resources, no nothing. We found an old bit of corrugated iron, and we slid down the bank on that, and then. Yeah, and then I've got my uncle down here ready to shine his boot to kick our asses. So sometimes you don't need technology, you don't need anything at all, but the imagination. So
true,
I like the idea of grass skiing. Actually, that sounds a fantastic idea. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. I'm feeling very cornered now. I'm texting John. No. As you were, Steve.
Just conscious of time. Like the final part of the plan is spaces and places, and these are all the places where you can play, do active recreational, play sports, like playgrounds, bike paths, sports fields, gyms, or even a beach. These are spaces and places where fun and movement happen. They can be built or natural, and they need to be safe and welcoming for everybody. Did anybody have a space or place that they wanted to design? Did anyone get that in there?
I didn't.
That was you? Okay, that's okay. Again, there's a lot of overlap. That's fine.
I had an indoor cricket arena.
Love it.
Steve looks very elaborate.
The other spaces and places that I think we need to look at resources that are available. We're fortunate in Cambridge because we've got that wonderful green belt going all the way around the town.
Yeah.
And I sometimes think that's underutilized. And I don't know why, because it's this ideal opportunity for kids to take balls and throw them around without it being organized.
Yep, absolutely. And that's, again, some questions to reflect upon there. How do we ensure the fields are fit for purpose, meet the growing needs? Over time, these are longer term conversations, but sports field upgrades, floodlighting, drainage all start to come into what's sort of needed to support these facilities so that people don't have to travel, too far, for example. But also we take a real view of the network. This is not just a case of, every township gets a swimming pool, every town gets a hall. There isn't enough money to do it that way. And so just trying to understand how the jigsaw fits together within Waipa, but also between neighbouring councils and how it all sort of fits together in that regard.
So if I just wrap up really quickly, so we'll take the feedback and the ideas that have come through from this. We're also consulting with Mana Whenua in terms of this space as well, and we'll then bring this back for a decision or approval at the Service Delivery Committee. So that's our next steps. And I just want to say a big thank you to Steve and Hayden for their presentation today, but also for you to be amenable to having fun with Lego and having a bit of a different thinking process around this. So thank you for sharing your stories and being a part of this today. Thank you.
Just quickly, Lou.
Just very quickly, thank you, gentlemen, for what you've done. I'm actually fairly heavily involved in TA Sports, as you well know. But what I was going to say is we do not want to have this program decimate or take away from the integral club situations now. So we've got 10 codes, I think they're now 11, along with the Highland Pipe Band. Okay, we're at capacity. Okay, we're working on a grass pitch, and we've got and we need funds. So the clubs like ourselves need to survive as the hubs to start that off. We look at junior players. We've got the biggest amount of junior players we've ever had. And this is a problem that's growing and growing. I wanted to answer Mayor Susan's thing about parents standing on the sideline, volunteer. volunteer, become a ref, become part, do the touch judge, do something. There's plenty of options out there. We need you all.
Thank you, gentlemen. And that brings to a conclusion